I'll give you the message right now. Retail, start prepping, no matter if it's 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, whenever it is. Start prepping, getting masks ready. So there's the warning right now. It's coming. It's inevitable. The numbers keep going down. We're going to get the economy going based on health and science. I got to keep emphasizing that. Just because we open up these stores, it doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. We still have to follow the protocol of the chief medical officer, and we're going to continue making sure that we take those measures.
All right, that's the great reopening. That's Premier Doug Ford in Ontario talking about his plan. Get a mask ready. That is going to be part of the new normal as provinces across the country are taking the first steps to reopen some parts of our society. Some services, dentistry, physio, hair salons, recreational facilities like golf courses are opening up again. What does it mean, though, for the health and safety of employees going back to work? How much risk are we willing to accept as a society, especially in workplaces like a meatpacking plant? The Cargill plant in High River, Alberta, saw a huge COVID outbreak. Now the workers are being called back. But the union there says, wait, it's unsafe. Should they go back to work? The press gallery is here to talk about the great reopening. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, our reporter with CTV News. John Ivison, a columnist with the National Post and the Ottawa bureau chief there. And joining our special guest today is the president of the Alberta Federation of Labour, Gil McGowan. Good to see all of you. Gil, you're in Edmonton and following the story closely. Union rallies are sparking up in Calgary as workers at the Cargill meatpacking plant returned to the job 2 weeks after the plant was shut down because of the COVID-19 outbreak. Should workers be going back to work at a very critical plant for meatpacking?
Well, this has been a very tough day for us, Evan. As you mentioned, today is the day that about 2,000 workers working at the Cargill plant in High River, just south of Calgary, they've been called back to work after nearly half of them have been diagnosed with COVID. And today is also the day that we buried the first worker who died from COVID at that plant. Frankly, we did a survey of the members of the meatpacking plant over the weekend. 85% of them were afraid to go back to work, but they were going back because they felt they had no choice. So the workers are opposed, their union is opposed to reopening the plant, but the provincial government has given their blessing. So back they go. And from our perspective in the labor movement, there's two big concerns. The first, obviously, is the health of those workers. The company for weeks ignored pleas from the workers to close down the plant. They were raising red flags about infection as far back as the end of March. They were ignored. And the result was that the infection spread much more widely than it could have been if they had suspended operations as the workers had asked. Then we had the provincial government a few weeks later, right, reassuring the workers and ignoring them, and now they're being sent back. We have to, how can we have confidence that things are okay when the employer who is saying it's okay, the provincial government's saying okay, it's okay. They both said it was okay before, and the result was that workers were infected and people died.
Let me bring in John Ivison on that. You're listening to this. This is a really fascinating moment. Some people say this is an essential service. Some say they shouldn't go back to work. John, how do you balance safety for workers and the need to get beef across the country?
Well, I don't think there are any easy answers to this. I mean, presumably in this case, the health authorities in Alberta have said it's safe to go back. I think that is the arbiter which both sides need to listen to most. I mean, the implications of this plant closing for an extended period of time would be felt right across the country. I think it's 30–40% of Canada's beef is processed in this one plant. I think there's another plant in Brooks, Alberta, which another 40%. The implications of those two plants closing, you've got food shortages, you've got spiking prices. There are shortages potentially in drugs, in fresh vegetables because of the lack of temporary foreign workers. If the processing plants close, then obviously that has implications for the farmers. I mean, these are big questions for governments and for unions and for workers. There are no easy answers.
Annie, what do you make of this? Yeah, let me just bring in Annie real quick. Hold on, Annie, go for it.
Well, obviously, the outbreaks are different in every province, but I think this is an unprecedented situation, and the premiers really are just crossing their fingers and hoping that they are, implementing the right new measures, relaxing measures at the right time based on science, and hoping that they're predicting properly. Because the problem, Evan, is that it's very easy to be relaxing these measures, but the hard part is going to be trying to claw them back when you've given people a little bit of freedom after 8 weeks of isolation. Telling them in 2 to 4 weeks that what they've done is wrong will potentially undermine the confidence that Canadians have of their elected officials who were relaxing these measures in the first place when cases were still climbing. And two, it's going to be hard for people to listen to the new measures to isolate again once they've already been told, oh, it's okay, it was safe, we can go out now.
Gil, I got to take a break in about a minute, but go ahead. Last word on this.
Yeah, I wanted to take issue with something that John said, suggesting that everything's fine or as good as it can be because public health officials have given their blessing to the opening. But one of the things that we in the labor movement have been saying is that there's a big difference between public health and workplace health and safety. What works in the broader public doesn't necessarily work in a workplace where the employer has competing interests like production and profits. And what's clear here is that the company was dragging its feet, and this is true for Cargill, it's true for JBS, the big meatpacking plant down in Brooks. Their competing interests are undermining the ability to actually, keep the plant safe. And that's where workplace health and safety comes in. Provincial governments have the ability, the authority to shut down plants when they think workers and the public are not being safe. Here in Alberta, fully a quarter of all our COVID cases are workplace related. But our occupational health and safety branch has not been in the workplaces. Right. They have not exercised their authority. And until we start looking at the COVID crisis through the lens of workplace health and safety, workers are going to die, and it's going to push back the time horizon for reopening our economy. So it's bad for the workers, but also bad for the broader public and public health.